Venus retrograde from the 1st of March 2025 until the 12th of April 2025. Venus will retrograde in Aries and Pisces. How we are going to do this video, we are first going to discuss a brief about Venus retrograde, and then we're going to go into the history of Venus retrograde, when it retrograde lost in these signs, and then I'm going to go into the signs, your sun, moon, and rising. Do watch for your sun, moon, and rising, and that will give you an understanding of this Venus retrograde. Now, I do have a Venus retrograde guidebook. I will link it down below. This is a guidebook for Venus retrograde in all the signs. So throughout your life, anytime Venus goes retrograde within a sign, you know, okay, astrologers say this, or I've checked on this app that Venus is going retrograde, and you can check, okay, it's retrograding in Sagittarius, is retrograding. How will this influence me, as well as what is the theme of that Venus retrograde? Now let's get into the history. So in 2017, Venus went retrograde. So 8 years ago, Venus went retrograde in Aries and Pisces. Pay attention to that year of 2017. And it retrograde from the 4th of March until the 12th of April 2017 in Aries and Pisces. That being said, I want you to think back to a time. I remember it, particularly for me, that was a really intense time in my life. That is when my grandmother had passed away, and it was my father's mother, and it was that year. I remember 18th of March, I attended my grandmother's funeral. And why it was such a deep year for me, because before my grandmother had passed, I just felt it. You know, where you do things that you don't normally do. You get out of your normal routine. I mean, that day, like the day that I got the news, I was just, before then, like really sensitive. I was having like these chest pains at the time. I thought it was like I was having anxiety, like I was feeling the sense of grief, you know, like your heart broken. And you know, when your heart breaks and you feel like that pain in your heart, that's how I felt. And my grandmother had passed, but I only got the news. So that day, randomly, I decided to go and watch a movie. It was Wolverine. I'm gonna go watch Wolverine, and it was like Wolverine, but it was where he was older. And it was, I can't even really remember the movie because I was so in my feelings. And for some reason, that movie put me more in my feelings because I was in my feelings. And then I get the call from my mom. And it was a random day. Like, I just decided I'm going to the movies during the week. A random day, I get this call from my mom, and she tells me that, you know, my grandmother has passed. My father's mother had passed. And it was big news for me. The funeral was on the 18th of March, and it was my mom's birthday on the same day. So we attended the funeral on my mom's birthday. So it was quite pivotal for me. Mainly because my grandmother literally raised me. Both my parents had me when they were rather young, and they were still working within their career. So my grandmother, and we stayed with my father's parents. So my grandmother was someone who looked after me until I was like 7. And until my parents like got a divorce. But before then, I spent and grew up in my grandmother's room. We had beds opposite each other. You know, that's where I slept. It was who I spent most of my time with. It was who taught me about prayer. It was my grandmother. And it was such an emotional experience for me at that time in my life. I just felt so emotionally out of myself. And that was Venus retrograde back then. So I want you to think about it, because that Venus retrograde for me obviously had a profound effect on me. And it would be interesting to see how this Venus retrograde now plays out. Now in 2017, when Venus went retrograde, like I mentioned, from the 4th of March until the 15th of April, what we had back then was President Donald Trump got inaugurated in January. That was his first presidency. And now in 2025, Donald Trump is president of the United States again. So see how the themes come up again. So it's so important to be aware of that. That year, we also had, early that year, we had a women's march in the US, largest women march. They all wore pink hats and they were all demonstrating and protesting against something that Donald Trump had said. That was something that was going on back then. And it's important to keep that in mind because Venus is our feminine energy. It is where we feel we need to stand up for something that we feel is unfair or is not, sitting right with us. And I'm also going to be looking here at my phone because I do have more things that happened in 2017. Violent protests wrecked Venezuela in April, critical point in the country's constitutional crisis. That is something that as well happened. We also have a lot of in there here as well. We had terrorist attacks. So this was now in United Kingdom. Suspect Islamic terrorist has been shot dead after killing 3 people, injuring 40 more in a car, and knife attack with a London Bridge inside the grounds of the House of Parliament. So that also happened. So there was that happened. A series of terrorist attacks on the UK this year began. So that also happened, right? That was the same thing that I was just talking about. So protests, those are the things that happen, as well as we had, so that was also in March 14th, European Court Justice rules companies can ban staff from wearing religious symbols, including headscarves. This is important because Venus is how we present ourselves to the world. So bear that in mind as well, how we present ourselves. Disney refuses to cut gay moment in a film, Beauty and the Beast, for Malaysian censors. Instead, pulls the film from Malaysia. This is important because it's defining love, and Venus deals with love. So these are the things that happen. This is a good thing that happened. I love this one. Carrie Lam is the first woman elected to lead Hong Kong by Beijing Influence Electoral Commission. So this is important. Venus was retrograde in Aries. Aries rules over, well, where we lead, and Venus is feminine energy. So, mass protests in Chile over country's privatized pension system. And that happened on March 26th. This is important. Money becomes a thing as well. 28th of March, Britain introduces first new pound coin, 30 years with secret security feature inside to stop counterfeiting. So this is also something that happened. Money becomes important, so watch your money. On the 28th of March, Cyclone Debbie strikes northeast of Queensland coast as a Category 4 storm. Why this is important, Venus will go retrograde in Pisces. Pisces rules storms. Okay, so it's important to look back at these things to see what happened in history and how it plays out now. US President Donald Trump signs energy independence executive order undoing Obama climate control measures. So that also happened. This was a very powerful time. And even that year in 2017, later that year, there was the Me Too movement that also transpired. So we need to look back in history and all the things that's happened to see where we are. And you can see history replaying itself. Donald Trump, once again, is president of the United States, and we're now in 2025. So yes, 8 years ago, what happened then is important. It's not going to play out exactly the same, but in different ways. Now let's talk about Venus in Aries retrograde and Venus in Pisces retrograde. Venus retrograde in Aries, and this is going to be happening from March 1st, right? The first half of the retrograde, basically. Such an important time, and please do check down below for dates. And like I said, I do have a guidebook available for you to understand how to work with this Venus retrograde for you particularly. So let's get into this. Venus retrograde rules over, Venus in general rules over love, luxury, beauty, relationships, our aesthetic, the relationships with others. It doesn't have to be romantic. We do see exes come back into our lives. We do see divorces happen. We do see relationship tensions. We do see all these, and money. Money becomes a big thing. So Look at this Venus retrograde as a time to review your value system, your sense of worth, and how you present and act within relationships and what you accept within relationships. In the sign of Aries, this is going to be in its detriment. Venus in Aries is in its detriment. It's in a weakened position as it is, but we feel more fired up. We fiery, we want to stand on business. All of a sudden, we'll be very clear of what in our relationships is taking away from our independence. We'll be looking at ourselves and what we accept within relationships. It is fiery energy, so expect fights to be in your face. It's not going to be behind closed doors. It's going to be where someone is angry and they tell you directly, or they'll just be, I need my independence in this relationship. It can't even be a friendship. All relationships. It can be a sibling. If your sibling feels at the end of the day that you have basically been stripping away their independence, they'll tell you this. This is about our independence and where we advocate for ourselves. When Venus is retrograde in Aries, it's saying you haven't been advocating for yourself. You haven't been stepping up when it comes to your needs. You haven't been making sure you get what you deserve. And is this really worth it? So we are going to be reassessing that. We're also going to reassess how we've been acting in accordance to our finances. Where have we been impulsively spending money? Aries is about where we act on impulse. And so we'll be very aware of where we've been acting on impulse. If you are in a very aggressive, be it emotional or physical or verbal aggression, you will see this become prominent within your relationships, regardless of who it is. It can be a lover, it can be a husband, it can be a friend, it can be your mother, it can be your father, a sibling. Whoever in your relationship sector who's aggressive with you would now become more aggressive. This is where we are stipulating boundaries. Aries is the soldier. Aries is ruled by Mars. This is why Venus is not happy here. Venus doesn't like to be in Aries because Aries is the soldier and Mars. How do I define where Venus is the planet and goddess energy? Because Mars is the god of war. Venus is the goddess of love. Laying. Think about just laying on a couch, being fed grapes and wine, and everything is peaceful and easy, and you just get to dream a beautiful dream. Venus is a benefic planet. It's a rewarding planet. Mars is a malefic planet. Malefic, it can be destructive. Mars is the god of war. So when Venus is retrograde in Aries, we can go to war with the ones that we love. We can go to war on any given situation that we feel is undermining our sense of independence. This is one of the Venus retrogrades that does, it worries me in terms of if you are in a situation that is already in a state of conflict, because it can become worse. If you are anyone in a state of conflict within your household or tensions or suffering any domestic violent situations, this is something that we could also see rise during this time. It is so important to protect yourself. And Mars is the god of war. This is where we advocate for ourselves. And that's why we see so many protests. We see so much of uproar, because people start becoming very much so in the mood and in the energy and in the spirit of aggression, because Mars is a planet of aggression. It's anger, it's frustration, and it's anger and frustration about what we've been accepting within love that is not for our highest good. Okay, so that's Venus retrograde in Aries. Venus retrograde in Pisces. Venus retrograde in Pisces, Venus in Pisces is exalted. So meaning that Venus loves to go here. Okay, Venus loves it. Think of Venus in Pisces. Pisces would be the holiday house. Pisces would be the beach house that Venus owns. Venus is a natural ruler of Taurus and Libra. Okay, so rules Taurus and Libra. So keep that in mind. And Venus loves those beautiful things. It's where we have intellectual conversations. It's where we eat beautiful things. It's where we fine dine. It's the luxury in life. It's the value and sense of worth, and it's the relaxation. It's the aesthetic. It's the calm. It's the peace. It's benefic. It is wealthy, right? It's your luck. Okay, so when Venus is retrograde now in Pisces, it's also a challenging Venus retrograde. See, Pisces, even though it's an exaltation here, why does this Venus retrograde become so hard? Because this is where the illusions, because Pisces is ruled by Neptune and Jupiter. So it's what we believe, and Neptune offers us the rose-tinted glasses. They fall off. This is where we get to see the reality within relationships. Deceptions, lies, betrayals, hidden enemies. Pisces is the enemies that we thought maybe someone had our back, and now we realize that they don't. We see it with Venus retrograde in Pisces. And also storms can happen with Venus retrograde in Pisces, because Pisces is that water energy. We also see with Venus retrograde in Pisces, like where we have martyred ourselves, sacrificed our needs for the sake of others. And this creates victimization, because even though you know the situation is not good for you, it's not healthy for you, you sacrifice yourself in a sense of martyrdom for the highest good. Like, you know, maybe if I just be kinder to this person and show them real love, they will basically accept me for me. You martyr yourself, and they might enjoy this love so much, and we'll have a great relationship, because even though they're troubled and wounded and they've been through so much in life, I'm just going to support them through it and love them, martyr them. And this causes victimization. Venus in Pisces retrograde, we can see a lot of victimization in love, where we feel like the victim will either martyr themselves, the victim of someone's betrayal, the victim of, you know, someone's betrayal, deception, or the reality that we gave into. There's a lot of victimization when Venus goes retrograde in Pisces. It's deeply emotional. This is where you're going to not anymore fight like when Venus was retrograde in Aries. This is where you're going to get into that emotional space. You want to cry about it. You want to tell people about it. This is where you might even feel emotionally like, I just need to let you know how I feel, and I feel like you've taken advantage of me. I feel you've betrayed me, whoever it may be, because Venus is a planet of love. And also, where do we have illusions about our money? Yes, this is like the shattered illusions about money, the shattered illusions about relationships. It's deep. Venus retrograde in Pisces is deeply emotional. And the one thing with Venus retrograde in Pisces, you feel isolated, you feel alone, you feel like you are lost at sea and stranded. You are the castaway, and that's how you feel. And you feel like, oh my God, this is so hard, you know? Venus retrograde in Pisces is so important for you to take care of your health, because it's like our emotional and physical stress can lead to illness. Whereas Venus retrograde in Aries would create burnout, because we're so angry and frustrated, we might even suffer more headaches. Whereas here it's your lymphatic system, and that's why with Venus retrograde in Pisces, it can influence your health in such a big way. So these are the general themes of it: lies, deceptions, betrayals, breakup, divorces, conflicts with others, tensions, money issues, bills. In both Venus retrogrades, bills that you thought you had paid, unexpected bills, or you might have an unexpected bill due to something unfortunate that happens during the Venus retrograde. Do not go for any beauty treatments. It's not the time to try a new hairstyle, you know, change your color and make it something random. You might not be happy with the result, or any plastic surgery. Not the moment in time to try anything funky, or even deciding to go get a tattoo. You might not be happy with the artistry. Venus is retrograde in Aries and Pisces, especially in Pisces, because that rules creativity, and Aries, both creativity. It is a time where you are dealing with these heavy feelings. One with frustration of where you're not getting the love, the appreciation. And with Pisces, it's long-term pain. It's the pain emotionally that you've been enduring for a long time within relationships. And all of a sudden, you get very clear when Venus goes retrograde in Pisces. The rose-tinted glasses come off, and you become very clear of how much you've been giving and sacrificing and not receiving anything in turn. And this can be even at your job. It can be at your job. It can be where you're taking advantage of at your work life and not receiving your worth. So that's why it influences money. So this is a very powerful time. So that's Venus retrograde in both signs. Like I said, guidebook. I'll have all the Venus retrogrades, every single one of them. Next year, 2026, towards the end of the year, around October, Venus will retrograde in Scorpio. So we are going through 2 years of Venus retrogrades. This now in March and the next year as well. I will put the dates down below. So it's so important to keep a heads up in both Venus retrogrades, because Venus will go retrograde in Aries this year. Mars ruled. Scorpio is Mars and Pluto ruled in 2026. So a realignment of relationships is coming through in a big way. And I suggest, by all means, take all liberties of this Venus retrograde to reassess your relationships and ask yourself, is it worth it? Because a Venus retrograde in Aries is saying choose your independence, and a Venus retrograde in Pisces is saying walking away is healing. That's what it's saying. So use this time wisely, because come 2026, the Venus retrograde then in Scorpio is deep. So be prepared for that. So we're going to get into the signs next. Venus retrograde Aries, Sun, Moon, or Rising. So first, Venus retrograde in Aries, then into Pisces. So it's going to influence 2 areas of your life. Aries, because Venus is retrograde in your sign, this is where people could come across to you and start conflict, saying that you are controlling, you're a bully, you're too assertive. They're nitpicking at you, and this is going to bring up some frustration. You'll also be very aware of what's not working within your relationships. Where have you been overextending yourself? Where have you been giving too much? Impulsivity in relationships will come up. If you impulsively got into a relationship with someone, this would also show. Like you just randomly start dating them. Now you'd be questioning them like, is this long term? Is this life for real? Venus retrograde in Aries, please do not do anything to your physical appearance, especially when Venus is retrograde in your Aries. You don't cut your hair. You can cut your hair if it's an old style that you had, or go back to an old style, but don't do something like, oh, I'm going to go with pink hair. I feel like I should get a tattoo. I feel I should just start dressing like corporate style. None of those things. Don't decide to make those impulsive choices. No impulsive spending. Spending money impulsively, dating impulsively will all come into review. This is a powerful time for you to recheck yourself and see how you handle relationships and how you navigate them. You will break up with relationships that take away from your sense of independence and self, or make you feel insecure. It's taking away from your independence. You might feel the need to break free from that. When Venus is retrograde in Pisces, this is taking you deep into the past. Exes throughout the Venus retrograde can come back for you, but in Pisces, you'll be thinking about long-term people that you dated in the past. They could really come up. You could meet them somewhere. It could mean something, could mean nothing, depending on how you broke up. This is also a time where you'll be deeply emotional, sensitive. You might even be more weepy. Your intuition is heightened though. Trust your intuition and don't trust what people say to you, because this is the area of life where you're needing that. You are more in tune with your subconscious. So trust your intuition. This is a time where you'll be very aware where you have sacrificed your needs for others. You'll also be very aware where you were victimized by others, where you were blamed. And this is where you could also feel very isolated. And you could also, throughout this retrograde, go through breakups, divorces, separations, as you are reviewing the status of your relationship and what you want for your future. When it comes to not just love, you could also see this happen within friends. You could see this happen because Venus is first retrograde in your sense of self. You could see this happening, you just questioning yourself in all your relationships and how do you handle them and where do you overextend yourself, Aries. Taurus, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Okay, firstly, all exes can come back for you because your Taurus and Venus is naturally connected to you in a big way. Venus is your ruling planet. So if you're feeling off, if you're not feeling like yourself, if you're not feeling like who you normally are, this is due to the Venus retrograde, okay? You're asked to reevaluate things. When Venus is retrograde in Aries, trust your intuition. Hidden enemies come to light. This is where you could also spend some time in isolation. As a Taurus, this is when you reevaluate your money, your relationships as a whole. But the area of life is endings. This is where you are ending cycles subconsciously that you've been holding on to weights for far too long. You are ending, like, it could be relationships that you're ending, or subconsciously you are deciding to make a change within yourself that is for your empowerment and it betters your life in some way. You are needing rest and rejuvenation. When it comes to money, you might notice that money kind of slows down, especially when Venus is retrograde in Aries for you, because it's the house and area of rest. It's where you're needing that rest, you're needing that time out, and it's not the most easiest flowing time, especially financially. You can, like, if there's anything creative that you've been working on previously before the Venus retrograde, you could reap the rewards for that, right? So you could work on past things, but ideally, you're working on subconscious beliefs about impulsivity as well as suppressed anger that you hold within, where sometimes just like, hear the peace. Tauruses are not fighters unless like you seriously push them, and then you're going to unleash the bull. So in general, this is that period for you where if there's any suppressed emotions, they are now being released. You could also feel deeply emotional and just plain down exhausted. Like you just feel exhausted and you're needing some rest and time to self. But if you're in a relationship, you might be discussing like private matters or, subconscious things you held within now that surfaces. You want to share that within the relationship. Secrets come to light, very much so. Venus retrograde in Pisces for you. This is going to now influence your social circles and social connections. So your friend group. This is where you're going to see where Venus retrograde is going to ask you, hey, the people that you collaborate with, network with, social groups, work group, hobby group, family group, you're in a group setting and Venus retrograde comes into play and asks you, are you in alignment and do you value these people? Do you see value here? You could come up with the most tensions within your social circles and dynamics. You could also see changes within your social circles and dynamics. Say you have a fallout with a friend, and now because of the fallout between you and the friend, and it's quite, everyone knows about it in some way, it's now going to influence a friend group, and you might not want to mix with certain people, especially if people choose sides. You could see this play out within a relationship. You break up with your partner and like your social circle changes. There is going to be you reevaluating social circles and changes within their social circles where you are choosing, who do I truly feel aligned to? Who's part of my destiny? Like when I say destiny, long-term future and goals and who I aspire to be. Leadership roles, if you're in the state of or in a position of a leadership role, this is where people could test your leadership abilities as well, where you might notice the group that you're leading now are pushing back. So it's important to find your sense of center and to refocus and re-look at future wishes and dreams that you had. You could also have friends from the past re-enter your life as well. Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Rising. You are asked to question your social interactions and social connections. You could see you in a friend group and there's a fallout. You could have a fallout with a friend and then maybe you cannot spend time with the friends that you normally want to spend time with. You could have old friends re-enter into your life, people you haven't seen in a long time. And it doesn't only have to be friends. It can be anybody from a social circle because it's happening in the area of life where you socialize with others. So maybe you used to work at this company and now you left and you're working in a different place, and then you run into someone who used to belong to that social dynamic that you were a part of. If you're going through a breakup or a separation, this is where now because of that breakup or separation, your friend group becomes involved and your social circles become involved. And if you're married, it's a family that becomes involved, it's a social circle, and everyone's choosing sides, and this can create a lot of tension. So that's what Venus retrograde is bringing you. This can bring like friends, like I said, from the past. You could also revisit future visions and like long-term future goals that you've had for yourself. This is also if you're in a leadership role, people test your patience the most. Now, your career, when Venus is retrograde in Pisces, Gemini, when it comes to not co-workers, employers, people in authority, parents, people who have a sense of authority, this is your reputation as well. People here are willing to blame you, victimize you, put you in the position of the, problem, basically. And this doesn't sit well with you. It can be anyone. And reputation too is where we step up into a leadership role. So even if you are, for example, if you're the breadwinner of your household, you are in a leadership role. This is where judgment comes upon you and how are you leading, or you might lose that stance in some way. This is if you are in a relationship and you are organizing an event, you are leading that event. This is your reputation. This is where you come under criticism and tensions whenever you are leading, because your leadership in some way is not in accordance to how it needs to be, or in a relationship where you are more dominant. This can also play out where you are seen as, not fulfilling your duties. And you'll be asking yourself, this is the biggest thing that's happening this Venus retrograde. My duties, what are they? What do I want for myself? Remember, the North Node is in Pisces and Venus is retrograding in Pisces. So you are rethinking your career, your goals, how you lead, your reputation, how you present yourself to the world and to others, because others are the world, and how people see you. I will tell you though, if there's anything shady you've done, it taints your reputation. Venus retrograde likes to show us the truth about things. So make sure that you are on the up and up. And if you have anybody in authority that isn't on the up and up, employers, authority figures, or maybe your partner's in the dominant role, this is where they can have a fall from grace. This is the area of life of fall from grace in some way. So make sure that you're on the up and up. For you, it's rethinking your career, mainly rethinking your goals, your ambitions. A lot of this Venus retrograde, both in Aries and Pisces, is about rethinking your aspirations and what you want with your life, and where do you see yourself, like your legacy, your sense of purpose. Do you have purpose? You're questioning your big goals in this life, and it's okay to do that. You could also see challenges at your job or career, as in maybe they're going to let you go. This influences your money. Okay? And when Venus is retrograde in Aries, don't spend too much money on your friends. You'll be very aware when you're spending too much money on your social circles. So when Venus is retrograde in Aries, be aware of that. Yeah, it's your career. Are you receiving the finances for your hard work that you've earned? This could also influence your finances. If you're not in a job, you might notice your financial situation changes, because Venus rules over finances as well. Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Rising. And if you'd like to get my guidebook of Venus retrograde and the things that you can do to improve your Venus retrograde, it is linked down below. Now, Venus retrograde for you is important. I know, Cancer, you've been through so much with Mars retrograde in your sign early this year from January until the 23rd of February. And now there's a Venus retrograde happening in Aries, and it's hitting your career zone. Your career, authority figures, your sense of reputation. This is where you come under scrutiny for your leadership, of how you are, your work ethic, or how you are presenting yourself. It doesn't only just have to be at work. If you don't have a career, if you are basically a stay-at-home mom and you are doing everything at home, all of a sudden you become maybe your partner starts questioning, are you taking care of all your responsibilities? You might have it easy. Kind of conversations like that. You start dealing with, people scrutinizing how you carry yourself, how you lead in whatever role that you are pertaining to and leading. This is also where you can notice tensions coming with authority figures, parents, anyone who sees themselves as authority over you, whether it's a spouse, a partner, a friend, even children sometimes feel they're the boss of you. So this is where you notice that your parenting roles could come also into review. Right? There's a lot of these things of leadership and how you carry yourself, and Venus retrograde is showing you that, and your worth and your value. You'll be rethinking your career. Career choices becomes a very big thing for you because there is an solar eclipse on the 29th of March in the sign of Aries. So you are pushing forward with your career. You want to move forward, especially when Venus is retrograde in Aries. It's asking you to look at your career, your goals, your reputation, what you truly desire for yourself. How do you pursue those things? And rethinking career can be a big thing. This is also where you could see career changes, which influences your money and your finances. Venus retrograde in Pisces. This is about you seeing the bigger picture. And this is where you might be rethinking how you expand and grow within your life. This is how you might be rethinking your education, going back to study, or deciding to travel, but travel to a place you've previously been. Watch out though on overspending, because like maybe you could overspend on this trip, but it's a great time for you to really see the bigger picture in life and see wisdom within life. That's what Venus retrograde here offers you. Leo, sun, moon, and rising. Leo, this is such a beautiful Venus retrograde. The first part of it is not that intense, but the second half, when it retrogrades into Pisces, is. So the first half, you are rethinking your belief system, your sense of values. You're rethinking the beliefs that keep you stuck and you're wanting to let them go. You'll also be questioning the bigger picture within relationships. So like, can I see the big picture with this person? Do we share the same big picture? Our big picture is completely different. Do I want to settle down, buy a house and have some kids, or do they want to roam free? What is it within your relationship when it comes to the big picture that's out of alignment? You could discuss this and it could be healing, or you could discuss this and it can be a breakup. People that you've traveled with maybe from the past may re-enter your life. People that you went to spiritual places with, or like say you used to visit this temple or this mosque or this church. You now at this church, you might see someone from that past spiritual place come into your life, or any spiritual place basically. It doesn't have to be just what I listed. This is spiritual teachers, spiritual connections, people from, that we had spiritual connections with coming back into your life, that we've visited spiritual places with, or even people you studied with could come back into your life. When it comes to education, higher education, you could also be going back to study. You could decide to go on a trip, but a trip to a place you've previously been before. This is also a highly spiritual time for you. Now, when Venus is retrograde in Pisces, this is the intense part for you. It provokes pain, trauma, triggers that for you, your deepest wounds. This is pain. This is the area of life that rules pain, taxes, investments, intimacy, physical intimacy, as well as debt. Debt as in debt, debts and debt. So basically, this is where you could get a bill that you need to pay. Unexpected bill, something that you thought you paid, or you might decide at this time, gosh, I really need to sort out my credit. You could also be, old investments that you've worked on can come through. Something you've worked on previously financially can come through for you. Or you might be looking at your finances and rebudgeting, reanalyzing where you're spending your money. Secrets can come to light. This is the area of life where if there's things that have been kept away from us, we can get the truth now, especially in our most intimate relationships, whether that's emotional or physical. Physical intimacy is people that you basically are physically intimate with. Emotional intimacy is the people that you share secrets with. So if you have a friend, best friend, you share your secrets with, now the truth's revealed. Like that person's not who you thought they were, or that partner's not who you thought they were. You could go through breakups at this time. Breakups can happen in this area of life because it's intimacy and we're reevaluating who we share intimacy with. Or breakups, divorces, separations. It is an area too of divorce. It is where something dies. So either like you lose someone, they're no longer a part of your life in some way. This is that area of death. And Venus retrograde is here, that's going to be triggering your deepest emotional wounds. And why I speak about this Venus retrograde like that, and even bring up the element of loss, where you lose a loved one in an unfortunate incident. And grief could be revisited here. This is due to the fact that this Venus retrograde is happening during eclipse season, and eclipses are known for people to transcend this earth and enter into the next realm. It's one of those prominent times. Yes, there are other astrological influences that can also bring this, but during eclipses, it's when it's said in astrology, when you study astrology, new souls enter and old souls exit. That's why the nodes within your natal chart are so important, the north and south node, because it's where you come in. So the lessons that you carry from a past life, from your past experiences, or early childhood conditioning, if you don't believe in past lives. And the north node is the destiny that you live in this life, and you got to find the midway between the two in order to live your life in accordance. So during this time eclipses are happening, I'm going to tell you to really take care of yourself. People that you've been physically intimate with or emotionally intimate with, can come back into your life, or anyone who has basically been obsessed or stalked you previously would want to re-enter your life at this time. Boundaries are so important, especially to people who push your boundaries. You'll be very aware for during this Venus retrograde. So keep healthy boundaries. Virgo, Sun, Moon, or Rising. There's no denying that this Venus retrograde and March as a whole is having you reevaluate your relationships, personally and professionally. There is going to be a full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo on the 14th of March, and we are having Venus retrograde during that time. So keep that in mind. Venus retrograde in Aries wants you to reevaluate your money. Where have you been impulsively spending, helping a spouse out with money as well? Things that you've been doing with your money. Venus retrograde here wants you to also be very aware where you lack boundaries with money, meaning like where are you not receiving your value? If you're working in a place and you're being undermined and not undervalued, this is asking you about, hey, you've been investing this time and energy because it is the area of investments. Why are you not receiving the compensation? Venus retrograde wants you to check your financial situation. Venus retrograde will bring secrets to light, especially about intimate relationships. It can be a partner, someone you've been physically intimate with, or even emotionally intimate with, a friend you shared secrets with. Maybe it was a co-worker you shared secrets with. The people you get vulnerable with is what I'm talking about here. Those relationships come into review. If anyone's keeping anything from you, or if you've been keeping anything, it comes to light. This is also where you learn about power plays, power dynamics, and manipulations in relationships, all types of relationships. Who has the power? This is what you are learning here, Virgo, in the first half. And who's trying to dominate you with their power. You are asked to embrace your empowered self and step up into your power and have those boundaries. You could also be revisiting past pain, trauma, grief. You'll feel triggered and vulnerable. Emotional healing is highly important. Venus retrograde in Pisces. So remember, Venus retrograde in Aries is going to bring those intimate relationships to light, as well as relationships that dominate force or power over you. They manipulate you emotionally. That's force. Or physically just be too controlling. That's force. People who are obsessed, stalkers, who think about you a lot, will want to re-enter into your life. People you've been physically intimate with will want to re-enter your life. People you've shared some form of intimacy will want to re-enter into your life. When Venus is retrograde in Pisces, this is going to be showing you about your relationships. Venus now will be opposite to your one-on-one relationships. Where are you deluding yourself? Where are you wearing rose-tinted glasses? It's now time to wake up out of the delusion. Venus retrograde here wants you to see the truth about your personal and professional relationships. Where have you been trying to think and hope for the best? Where have you been? And this is so important, especially for Virgo placements, because Pisces is opposite you. It rules your area of relationships. You can sometimes hope for the best within a relationship and overextend yourself in the form of service or duties where you are just doing too much. Like Virgo placements will go above and beyond in terms of doing. They will do this task for you, that task for you, whether it's at work or at home. And they'll overextend themselves and not really ask, are they getting the same within the relationship? So these personal and professional relationships come into review throughout the Venus retrograde. If you have any messy exes or any exes in general, they will want to come back into your life, both Venus in Aries and Pisces. This is a time where you also have to reassess when it comes to finances and relationships. When it's a professional relationship, are you reaping or receiving the financial value of your worth? And if you are in a love relationship, marriage, this is asking you, hey, financially, are you overextending yourself in this relationship? Where are you overgiving financially? Oh, I'm going to pay this bill, I'm going to pay that bill, I'm going to pay that bill. Is it balanced? Is what this part of Venus retrograde is asking you. This is a time for healing for you, particularly because of Venus retrograde in Aries. It is requiring healing. Venus retrograde requires healing all over, and also Pisces, but healing is so important for you due to their full moon lunar eclipse that's also happening on the 14th of March. Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Okay, you got Libra placements. You are highly influenced by Venus retrograde. Highly influenced by Venus retrograde. So be aware of that. Now, Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Venus will retrograde in Aries. This is opposite you. This is tensions within your relationships. This is conflicts. This is old resentments coming up, old fights coming up, old issues coming up, things that you swept under the rug, or where you've given, too much away in terms of people pleasing. Oh, it's okay, I'll do this stuff for you. Oh, it's okay, it's okay. People pleasing will come up. And this is your one-on-one relationship, so personal and professional come up. And you're asked to have some boundaries. You're asked, do you take care of yourself? You are asked to review how much you give to your relationships. You are asked to not indulge, and Libra placements can do this the most, angry, aggressive, and temperamental relationships. Libra, you are looking for a leader. You're not looking for someone who is brutal. Seriously, Libra placements can sometimes put themselves in dangerous relationships with others, particularly because the opposite sign is Aries. Aries is ruled by Mars. Mars is the god of war, the soldier. You are looking for a leader because Aries is the first sign. It is a leader that you're naturally looking for, but you're not looking for someone who is brutal, who you feel you got to go to war with. And it might feel, if you've been dealing with tensions within a relationship, going to battle with someone. This is even where you might decide, I need to go to battle with someone. I need to go through and follow through on divorce proceedings. I need to end this relationship and move out. These are the things you are dealing with. You are very clear that, you know what, it's coming to an end, and maybe it's not a war, you're just walking away. You're going out solo by yourself. This is where you're deciding to let go of those toxic relationships that demand your attention. This is, if you are in a healthy relationship, you can bring balance to this by dealing with old resentments and healing that. But if it's not that healthy, it can be very aggressive during this time. Venus retrograde in Pisces is asking you to look at your health, your work, your routine. Tensions with co-workers could come up. You could also notice that your health isn't that great. You might not be feeling good. You could also notice, and you could also be looking at how much you spend in relationships. Is it fair? Is it balanced? Your partner might have that issue with how much you're spending, or you might have that issue with how much they're spending. When it comes to, the Pisces part of it, this particularly talks to your work and what you receive. Are you receiving what you deserve financially for the efforts that you put in? You could also be looking at your work and co-workers, and tensions could come up here. This is when you set some healthy boundaries, revisiting old habits that you've had in health that have worked for you and influenced your health in positive ways is what you are bringing back into your life. Other than that, keep some boundaries within your relationships, especially when Venus is retrograde in Aries. But it's definitely a time where exes can come back into your life, and also in Venus is retrograde in Pisces, old co-workers. People that you shared a day-to-day routine with. Seriously, or people from the gym that you go to. Seriously, it's anything to do with health, or you might have to go, you haven't seen your doctor in a while, and now you got to go see your doctor. It is the area of health. It is the area where you go for those health checkups, review your health and how you're taking care of yourself, how you're sleeping, how you're eating, how you're maintaining your day-to-day routine. You could also notice that you just don't have the energy for your day-to-day routine. Okay, like I just don't have the passion for it. I just don't have the spark or creativity. Take a break, Libra. This is you telling you to indulge more in self-care. Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Now, I do have a Venus retrograde guidebook available. If you would like to know more, there's a link down below. It will tell you Venus retrograde in each sign, the theme of it, and how it will influence you per se as a Sun, Moon, or Rising Scorpio. But let's get into this particular Venus retrograde. And I think for you, Scorpio, it's important. You see, next year, come 2026, Venus will retrograde in Scorpio. So pay attention to the Venus retrograde this year, because you will be dealing with that Venus retrograde in 2026. And I do have that there. I have Venus retrograde through all the signs. So keep that in mind. And if you'd like to know more, link down below, or you can email me. Now, Scorpio. Venus is retrograding in the area of work, health, and routine. So people you've worked with before, co-workers, people who've been part of your day-to-day routine in some way could re-enter into your life. So say maybe you're starting a job, but your routine before used to get up and go to college. You might meet someone from your college. That was part of your routine. This is the day-to-day routine that we have. This is also where you might not be having the passion or the, just the motivation. You have lack of motivation for your day-to-day routine. You'll be rethinking your work life, rethinking your job, your actual job, and the duties that you do. You could struggle with the duties and tasks that you have. You need to also revisit and recheck your health and how you're taking care of your health, how you've been sleeping, how you've been eating, how you're maintaining health within your life. Now, Venus retrograde in Pisces, this is where exes can come back, especially people you've been romantically, went on a date with, flirted with, anything like that. Dates, flirting, people from the past can re-enter your life. Exes for you is prominent, Scorpio, especially when Venus is retrograde in Pisces. Now, your creativity, you'll really look at your creativity. If you have children, you'll be questioning like the bills and how much you spend on children. This will be something that comes up for you. How much am I spending on my kids? Am I spending enough? Is my partner spending enough? Is it balanced? Is it fair? You could also be looking at how much you spend on creative projects, how much you spend on dates. All of these things will be coming up where you spend your money and how you've been spending your money. When it comes to your work life and Venus is retrograde there, you'll be asking yourself, am I getting paid for what I do in a day? Simple, right? And do I need to change jobs? And when Venus is retrograde in the area of Pisces, it's telling you, exes are coming back, and how much do you spend on dates? How much do you spend on fun and pleasure? And when it comes to your children, is the spending, fair? When it comes to tensions, if you have children, you could have tensions with children. Children might come with unexpected bills to you and want you to buy this and want you to buy that. With this, it's really great for you, though, to revisit all creative projects. That could be extremely healing for you. And to, if you're going to have some fun, have fun with something that you've previously done. Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Now, Venus is going retrograde in Aries. This will influence your romantic life. You are going to see heated tensions and conflicts within your romantic life, especially dating. You might be asking yourself, why are we even together? When last did we go on a date? Or you might have arguments on the date. People you previously dated want to pop right back in. Great time to revisit all creative projects. You'll be questioning how much you spend on luxury items, especially impulsive buying. Impulsive buying will come into review of where you just impulsively just buy this for fun, buy that for fun. Impulsively spending on dates. Oh, I'm going on a date. I need a whole new outfit. Oh, I'm going on a date. I need to cut my hair. Oh, I'm going on a date. All these things about dating and expenses is coming to mind, as well as exes can come back. You can revisit all creative projects. If you are spending too much money on creative projects, you'll be asking yourself about that. And if you have children, finances around children can come up. Maybe your child needs you to pay for the school trip. Maybe you are questioning how much you spend on your children. Like, are you impulsively buying things for your children? They didn't request it, you're just buying it, and then you're buying that, and then you're buying that, and you're not thinking about it clearly. This is the area, though, of pleasure and enjoyment. So it's telling you to revisit how you indulge in pleasure and enjoyment. And you might look back and do something from the past that you used to do for fun, and now you're doing it again. Venus retrograde in Pisces, right? This is important for you. It's going to influence your emotions. You might feel like crying. This is where you want to cry. This is where you want to spend time at home. You want to spend time in comfort. You could have household disputes over financial matters as well. Who's spending on what? Who's covering what? Or if you're in a home and you're not the one spending, you could notice within your home, your family decide to have a outburst or about finances. This is also where you're feeling very emotionally reminiscent about the past. You are thinking about the people you used to date and the people that were part of your family and so forth. You might even have old family members re-enter into your life. People of your family you haven't seen for a while, they might come back. You might visit an old place that you used to live or a childhood place that you used to go to. Maybe you used to go to that park. Maybe you used to go to that theater. You now revisit that, especially if it's part of your childhood. You would also be looking at, you know, just finding ways emotionally to deal with the heavy emotions, because there's a lot of heavy emotions that are coming forth. And even when it comes to your home, you might be thinking about moving home, changing homes, unhappy with your home, asking yourself, hey, what I pay for my home, is it worth it? Is this mortgage worth it? Is this rental worth it? What are my bills within my household? Who's paying for what? All of these things come to light, and you're deeply emotional. You might need some time by yourself. Anyone that you got emotionally comfortable with, you know, like shared your feelings with, like emotionally, like not vulnerable. This is more like, you know, you share like comfort with them. Maybe even a feel-good story about your childhood. They could come back into your life, or exes that you shared childhood, like memories with, like, oh, you know, when you tell an ex, like, hey, I used to always go and swing down by that park. That's a childhood memory that you shared. And they become part of this area of life where they might now like re-enter your life. So there's a lot of re-entering your heart and your emotions. You might even be thinking about your parents and money, your lineage and money, your roots and money. How did your parents spend money? What were their relationships to love? And what have they passed down to me? And what do I need to break free from? Hello, Capricorn, Sun, Moon, or Rising. Now, I do have Venus guides available with Venus Retrograde in each sign and how it will always affect you. So you can always stay up to date with Venus Retrograde and how it will affect you, as well as tips and things to do during Venus Retrograde to lighten, you know, the mood and make you feel better. Now, Capricorn. Ooh. Let's talk about this. Venus Retrograde in Aries. We have also a solar eclipse in Aries. You are heavily influenced in the month of March. Okay? This is asking you to rethink your home, your family, but there's going to be old family fights that come back. Anything domestically, if you have a roommate, they're now in your home. If you share space with anyone domestically, or if you are living with family, old family feuds come back. Domestic issues you've been having with a roommate come back. If it's your husband, wife, whoever you are dating or married to, come back. Old issues within the home, come back. Fights within the home, come back. This is Aries energy, and Aries is where you've been frustrated emotionally but are keeping it within, and now it wants to come out. The people around you also want to have this tension. If you do not own a home or are paying rent or anything like that, this is where you might notice your parents start to become more chaotic, right? There's drama within the family. They want to, you know, get aggressive with each other. They want to be rude. They want to throw some shade at each other. Boundaries are so important. You could be feeling emotionally angry. Sensitive, yes. It might be that angry cry, where you get angry and then you cry later. If you're a crier, that's what you do, or you would just be so angry and frustrated. You'll also be angry and frustrated that you're not receiving the emotional nurturing that you desire within a relationship. If you're not getting the emotional needs met, like the comfort, the security, the things that make us feel secure within a relationship, you're gonna be angry, Capricorn. You'll also be rethinking your home life, your environment, where you stay, and what's going on within your home, and do you need to make any changes? There is a solar eclipse at the end of March, on the 29th of March, in the sign of Aries. And that is a new beginning and a fresh start to your home life. So you might want to move home. You might be thinking about, like, I can't be here anymore. Or something outside of your control pushes you to want to move, you know? It could be finances that maybe push you. Or maybe a family member needs help, and now you push to move. Now, when Venus retrogrades in Pisces, read and reread contracts. Okay, because Venus retrograde in Pisces makes your communication, your intellect, just so mentally foggy. People you've spoken to previously, texts, communicated via email, news you've been waiting for previously can come through, but people are texting you. People from the past want to text you. Maybe their ex texts you. Maybe someone you thought you wouldn't see in a long time texts you all of a sudden out of nowhere. And this also can create a lot about communication conflicts. So this is where people might say to you, when I communicate, you don't listen. When I communicate, you don't understand me. When I communicate, you don't, I don't feel like you emotionally get me. Communication, the intellect comes up into review. How do you communicate? How do you express yourself? And how are you feeling understood? You could also feel misunderstood. Like people don't emotionally understand you. Because Capricorn, comes across like a strong sign. They rule by Saturn, so they, you know, they're stoic, they guarded, but deep down they got a lot of emotions, a lot of feelings, because especially where Aries sits in their chart, natal chart. So this is like telling you that, hey, you're feeling sensitive. You might even emotionally just feel like you could think of something that can make you feel reminiscent, emotional, nostalgic comes to mind. You could also have tensions if you have siblings, neighbors, conflicts there could arise. When it comes to finances, if you're signing any deals for finances, make sure you read and double read. Don't just sign the dotted line. Make sure that, you know, the things that you do, you'll get reaping the financial rewards, because this is where we negotiate, this is where we network, this is where we market ourselves, and this is also our environment. So make sure that your environment gives you that mental peace. And if you're networking and marketing yourself, make sure that you're presenting yourself in the best way. So if you're putting a CV together, you're marketing yourself, you are putting yourself out there, right? You're networking with someone to get a job. So basically, make sure the way that you represent yourself is seen in the best light, like re-look at it, rethink about it. This is also where, when it comes to networking and marketing, you could notice you have more complications when you're networking, more misunderstanding. So say you're applying to get a job there, but you know, the communication is taking longer than necessary, or they offer you the job, but it's not what they said they were going to offer you in the first place. Things like that. So it creates that tension when it comes to networking. Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Aggression. Venus retrograde in Aries brings aggression to your thoughts. So you might be thinking, like, being extremely hard on yourself, maybe even brutal, like, you know, I'm just the worst, bashing yourself mentally. Or you're going to receive this communication from others where they are just being aggressive, rude in their tone, undermining you, or people might accuse you of doing this as well. This is where the communication comes into review and what you value within communication. This is where you are very much aware and become aware of communication, and this creates that tension where people might just say, you know what, you're so aggressive in how you express yourself. You don't express yourself in a loving way. You're more withdrawn, or you feel that way about others, that their communication is just aggressive. It's rude. It's domineering. It's bullying tactics. And you need to set those healthy boundaries. Whether it's, and this could be anyone, it could be a partner, a friend, it's your communication intellect area, as well as you could notice this like conflicts with your neighbors, conflicts with siblings, conflicts with people within your environment where they're just tense, conflict while running errands. You could also be very aware of impulsively like spending on your vehicle. Like if you just like one of those people just keep buying accessories and things for your vehicle, do not impulsively spend on your vehicle, or you could have an unexpected expense around your vehicle as well. Like something you need to repair, and maybe you thought it was going to be this amount, but now it's adding up to a lot more. Venus retrograde in Pisces is asking you to look at your money, your value, your sense of value, your value within relationships too. Do people value you? Personally and professionally? If it's professionally, are they compensating you? And personally, do people appreciate you? Do they see value in you, or do they not see value in you? And this is so important for a sense of self-worth, to surround yourself with people who see value in you, because when we surround ourselves with people who do not see value in us, we lose our value, because we start seeing ourselves through their eyes. We start saying, you know what, maybe they're right. I should never start that business. No, they're right. I shouldn't apply for that job. So see value within yourself and surround yourself with that. So you'll be seeking and looking at people who do value you. You'll be very aware of people who don't value you. Conflicts and tensions over money can arise, especially in terms of income. You might feel the need to stand up. You might feel the need to set boundaries. You might feel the need to become like, I got to a stage where I want financially for myself. Income, if you've been working on anything previously financially, you could reap the rewards. If not, you could notice financial challenges during this time. This would be a time that could be very financially challenging for you. Unexpected expenses, things that you need to randomly pay, line of work not, falling through, maybe a loss of job or loss of income or loss of a side hustle, or you'll just notice that your money's just not lasting. This is the influence of Venus retrograde. It's so important to do financial manifestation rituals to ease this, because this is where you could notice that financially, I'm just struggling during this Venus retrograde. You could also have rose-tinted glasses about your finances, rose-tinted glasses about your spending, rose-tinted glasses about, your spending and your finances, and even rose-tinted glasses about your work and how you're being compensated. It's time to not sacrifice yourself this way, Aquarius, and really step up into your most powerful self. Pisces, Venus retrograde in Aries and Venus retrograde in Pisces. Let's start off with the Aries, first half of the Venus retrograde. Okay, impulse spending, because this is Aries. It's where you impulsively buy, impulsively spend, impulsively don't think about things. This is asking you to stop, think. Aries rules the head, so it's time to move forward with your head as well. Pisces is also where you can notice financial challenges could come up, unexpected expenses, unexpected bills, money that you need to pay. You might think you have so much money and then you notice you have less. This is where you are asking yourself, what do you value and how do you see your sense of self-worth? If there's anything previously you've been working on, you could reap the financial rewards. This is asking you to reevaluate your finances, reevaluate your sense of self-worth and what you want for yourself. If you've applied for a job, read and reread and make sure that you're very clear on what they're offering you, so you don't get into a deal where later on you're like, what did they offer me? You know what I mean? Make sure that you're getting your worth. Make sure you're getting your value. Make sure that you are in check with what your passions are and follow through on that when it comes to your finances. Because for you, Venus retrograde in Aries influences income, it influences value, it influences what you spend upon, and also what your expenses are. So be aware of that, how you're impulsively doing it, and what are you passionate about. Passions that you've had previously, you could now turn to a side hustle, especially if you thought about previously. But don't start it just yet. Just work on it and slowly get it out there. Venus retrograde in your sign, Pisces. This is you. This is going to influence all areas of life, and it's going to ask you, where have you been deluding yourself? You are a Neptunian rule sign with Jupiter. So it's where you've been believing and deluding yourself about you, your relationships, your career, your work life. Everything in your life comes up for this review, and you're meant to see the truth. You will be receiving the truth during this Venus retrograde. Truth about your relationships, truth about your job, truth about your home, truth about the people you care about. Truth is being revealed to you because Venus is retrograde in Pisces, and Pisces is where we believe in the best dream. When Venus is retrograde here, it's a rude awakening from the dream, and we realize that we've been sacrificing ourselves for far too long. Where have you been sacrificing yourself? Where have you been the sacrificial lamb? And just be like, you know what? I'm going to be kind, and my kindness is going to show you the light, and you'll be a better person, but I'm going to keep you around me. Where do you lack boundaries? Where do you need to stipulate boundaries? Who's been manipulating you emotionally? Who's been taking advantage of the situation? Where do you need to stipulate those boundaries? Work, career, this is you. It's in your sign. It's all areas of life, and the areas of life where you haven't been honest with yourself, and you need to take off the glasses, the rose-tinted ones, and see the reality of what things are. Where have you basically, not involving yourself in enough self-care? Where have you been not spending time by yourself enough? Where have you been overextending yourself? Pisces, you are a sign that energetically can't overextend yourself. Your area of life, like Pisces, is hidden. It's the subconscious. It's the 12th house. It's where we go to rest, and you need that rest and rejuvenation. You'll be feeling exhausted, burnt out, and deeply emotional and sensitive. Thinking about the past, exes can come back into your life. People in the past that you've dated can come back in your life. You will also be dealing with issues of having vivid dreams, memories of the past, vivid intuitive dreams. So pay attention to your intuition. This is a very healing time for you, as North Node is in Pisces, and it is taking you towards destiny. But this is just clearing out everything that no longer serves you, the gunk, the weight. So you can't carry that no more on your back and expect to move forward with the North Node, because the North Node is forward, onwards and upwards. So in order to move in that direction, you got to cut loose this baggage that's been weighing you down emotionally. And there's been a lot that you've just been suppressing over since 2023, especially with Saturn being in Pisces. You've just been suppressing a lot of your feelings, and now you get the moment in time to release them. So feel emotional, feel vulnerable, feel sensitive, create those boundaries, see things that you need to see in order to achieve the reality that you truly wish to have. Thank you so much for watching. This is the Pisces and Aries Venus Retrograde of 2025. If you'd like to get the guidebook, it is down below. There's full of tips, rituals, affirmations, journal prompts to assist you on this journey to help you get through. So you can check that out down below, as well as be gentle, be kind to yourself, be patient with others, have those boundaries, and really give yourself self-care, because that's what Venus Retrograde is about.